The Fourth Way by P.D. Ouspensky. Chapter 1. Now, if we continue to this idea that only a very few can develop and find hidden possibilities in themselves, the question naturally arises: what determines the difference? Why do some people have a chance and some people have no chance? It is quite true that some people have no chance from the very beginning. They are born in such circumstances that they can learn nothing, or are themselves defective in some way. So we exclude defective people because there is nothing to be said about them. We are interested in people who are in normal circumstances, and they themselves must be normal, with ordinary possibilities of learning, understanding, and so on. Now, out of these people, only a very few will be capable of making even the first step in the way of development. How and why is it so? All people, in ordinary conditions of life, live under two kinds of influences. First, there are the influences created in life: desire for riches, fame, and so on, which we call influences. Which we call influences A. Secondly, there are other influences which come from outside life, which work on the same conditions, although they are different, and we call these influences B. They reach man in the form of religion, literature, or philosophy. These influences of the second kind are conscious in their origin. Influences A are mechanical from the beginning. Man can meet these B influences, or he can pass them by without noticing them, or he can hear them and think that he understands them, use the words, and at the same time have no real understanding at all. These two influences really determine the further development of man. If man accumulates influences B, the results of these influences crystallize in him. I use the word crystallize in the ordinary sense here, and form in him a certain kind of center of attraction, which we call magnetic center. The compact mass of memory of these influences attracts him in a certain direction, or makes him turn in a certain direction. When magnetic center is formed in man, it will be easier for him to attract to himself more influences B and not be distracted by influences A. With ordinary people, influences A can take up so much of their time that nothing is left for other influences, and they can hardly be affected at all by influences B. But if this magnetic center in man grows, then after some time he meets another man or a group of people from whom he can learn something different, something that is not included in influences B, which we call influence C. This influence is conscious in origin and action and can only be transmitted by direct instruction. Influences B can come through books and works of art and things like that, but influence C can only come by direct contact. If a man in whom magnetic center has grown meets with a man or a group through whom he comes into contact with influence C, that means he has made the first step. Then there is a possibility of development for him. Question: what does the first step mean? Now, in this Q&A section of this chapter, the questions are put by Ouspensky to Gurdjieff, so the answers are Gurdjieff's answers. So, question: what does the first step mean? Answer, it is connected with the idea of a path or a way. What is important to understand is that the way does not begin on the ordinary level of life. It begins on a higher level. The first step is the moment when one meets with influence C. From this moment, there begins a staircase with a number of steps which have to be climbed before the way can be reached. The way does not begin at the bottom, but only after the first step has been climbed. Question: what do you call a normal man? Answer: it may seem paradoxical, but we have no other definition. It means a man who can develop. Question: is there any relationship between influences B and influences A? When influences B come into a man, do they affect influences A and transform them? Answer: they may affect them, but at the same time, one necessarily excludes another. Man lives on the earth under these two different influences. He may choose only one, or he may have both. When you speak of influences A and B, you begin to speak about facts. If you replace this expression by one or another definite fact, you will see in which relationship they stand. It's very easy. At this point, the question naturally arises, why is it so difficult for a man to start changing himself, to come to a possibility of growing? Because you see, we must remember that man is creating a very interesting way of nature. No, let me read that sentence again. Because you see, we must remember that man is created in a very interesting way by nature. He is developed up to a certain point. After this point, he must develop himself. Nature does not develop man beyond a certain point. Later, we shall learn in full detail up to what point a man is developed and how this further development must begin. And we shall see why, from this point of view, he could never develop himself and why he cannot be developed by nature. But before that, we must understand certain general conditions. It's difficult for a man to even start any kind of work on himself because he lives in a very bad place in the universe. At first, that must sound very strange. We do not realize that there are better and worse places in the universe, and we certainly do not realize that we happen to be in almost the worst place. We fail to realize it because, from one point of view, our knowledge of the universe is too complicated. From another point of view, it does not take into account real facts. If we look for the nearest place to us in the universe, we realize that we live on the earth and that the moon is under the influence of the earth. At the same time, we see that the earth is one of the planets of the solar system, that there are bigger planets, probably more powerful than the earth, and that all these planets taken together must somehow affect and control the earth. Next in scale comes the sun, and we realize that the sun controls all the planets and the earth at the same time. If you think from this point of view, you will already have a little different idea of the solar system. Although there is nothing new in these things, it's only a question of how to relate one thing to another. Earth is one of the planets of the solar system, and Sun is one of the stars of the Milky Way. And beyond that, we can take all possible worlds. This is all we know from the ordinary point of view. As a purely philosophical term, we can add to that a condition or a relationship of things which we call the absolute, a state in which everything is one. Now, we can express this relation to moon to earth, earth to planets, and so on, in a slightly different way. And then he has a list here. And I'll just read the list, and I'll number them, although they're not numbered in this chapter. 1. Absolute, unknown beginning of all. 2. All worlds, all galaxies, similar and dissimilar to our own galaxy. 3. All suns, our galaxy. 4. Our sun, our solar system. 5. All planets of the solar system. 6. Earth. 7. Moon. Looking down No, looking from the top down, we can begin to understand the vast difference in scale as we compare all suns with our sun, or Earth with all planets. We can understand that they stand in a certain definite relation of scale to one another. The smallest is the moon, and beyond the moon we know nothing. The whole of this is called the ray of creation. There are other rays, because this ray does not include the whole universe. But since we live on the earth, it passes through the earth, and we belong to this ray of creation. From this diagram, it's clear what is meant by a bad place in the universe. The worst place is the moon, but the earth is almost as bad. It is like living near the North Pole, which explains why so many things are difficult on Earth. We cannot change or do anything about it, but when we know, we can adapt, and in that way we can escape many things which otherwise we could not escape. But we must not let our imagination run away with us and tell us that we can escape altogether. I just want to add one thing. For reasons which are difficult to explain as yet, in the ray of creation, all these worlds are connected with each other. Influences pass from higher to lower, but there is a gap between the planets and Earth. In order to bridge this gap so that influences from all planets could reach the Earth, a certain instrument was invented. It's a kind of sensitive film which surrounds the Earth. That is to say, organic life on Earth. So, plants, animals, men serve a definite purpose. They serve for communication between Earth and planets. With the help of organic life, which can receive and retain them, planetary influences penetrate the Earth. This is the meaning and the reason for organic life on Earth. Question. You assume organic life only on the Earth. Do you assume there is nothing on the other planets? Answer. No, not at all. But we are interested in organic life on Earth because we are on Earth, and we are part of organic life on Earth, so we speak only about Earth. All other planets we take together as a mass, but about Earth we speak differently. This is the principle of scale. The nearer something is to you, the nearer to full scale is your study. If you study this room, you need to know how many people are coming and how many chairs will be required. You study in detail, but if you take the house only, you do not need to know such details. If you take the street, it is again different. In the same way, we study the ray of creation on different scales. We speak about organic life on Earth, but we do not speak about organic life on any other planet. We have no way of studying it except on the Earth.